A lot of people thought Shedeur Sanders graduated from Colorado this month. But that is not exactly what happened. And that is why this story blew up so fast. Because in today's sports media world, one image can become a full narrative before the facts ever catch up. One photo in a cap and gown. One celebration post. One moment that looked official enough for the internet to decide the story was over. Except it wasn't. According to USA Today, Shedeur Sanders took part in Colorado's May 2nd commencement ceremony, but the school later clarified that participating in the ceremony is not the same thing as officially graduating. In other words, he had not yet obtained his degree at that time. Read that again. He walked in the ceremony, but he had not officially graduated yet. That distinction is the entire story, because this was not just some harmless little misunderstanding that stayed buried in one corner of the internet. This became a public narrative almost immediately. It spread through social media. It got repeated in posts, reactions, and coverage. And suddenly, a very specific version of the story was everywhere. Shedeur Sanders had graduated. That is why this matters. Not because walking in a ceremony is scandalous. Not because finishing a degree later is unusual. And not because Shedeur Sanders is the first student athlete to be in this position. This matters because the public was given a cleaner story than the facts actually supported. And when the correction finally arrived, it changed the tone of the entire conversation. USA Today reported that Colorado confirmed Sanders had not yet obtained his degree, even though he participated in commencement. The school explained that students can qualify to participate in the ceremony before their degree is officially completed. That part is important, because once that clarification comes out, the debate shifts immediately. Now the question is no longer, did Shedeur graduate? The question becomes, why did so many people come away believing that he had? That is where this story gets bigger, because sports fans are not just reacting to the facts here. They are reacting to the way the facts were framed. And in the Shedeur Sanders world, framing is everything. Every single update around him turns into a larger argument.
If he plays well, people say the media ignored it. If he struggles, people say the criticism comes faster than it does for other quarterbacks. If he is praised, critics say the coverage is manufactured. If he is criticized, supporters say the coverage is personal. That is why even something like a graduation clarification becomes a real football-adjacent content story. Because this is no longer just about a ceremony. It is about trust. It is about media framing. It is about narrative building. And it is about how quickly a story can become accepted as fact when it fits the image people already want to believe. Think about how this played publicly. People saw Shedeur Sanders in graduation imagery. They saw celebration language. They saw the kind of presentation that usually signals one thing to the audience: finished, done, official. So when later reporting clarified that he had not actually obtained the degree yet, the reaction was guaranteed. Some people immediately said, okay, that makes sense. Walking is not the same as graduating. Others said, hold on, then why did this get presented the way it did in the first place? And that is exactly why this story exploded. Not because the underlying academic situation is impossible to understand, but because the public version of the story felt more complete than the actual truth. That gap is where controversy lives. And Shedeur Sanders is one of the few athletes in football right now where even a gap like that instantly becomes fuel. Because supporters see it one way, critics see it another. Supporters say this is another example of people nitpicking everything around his name. They say he returned to celebrate commencement, that the clarification is normal, and that the outrage is manufactured. Critics say the original messaging made it sound more official than it really was. They say the correction matters because details matter. And when details get blurred, fans are right to ask why. That tension is the engine of this entire video. Because this story was never going to stay small. Not with Shedeur. Not with the Browns' angle now attached to everything around him. And not with a media environment that rewards instant reactions before full clarification catches up.
This is how narratives get built now. Fast image first, fast opinion second, full context later. And by the time the full context arrives, people are already emotionally committed to the version they saw first. That is why stories like this split audiences so hard. The first impression gets power, the correction gets treated like spin, and the athlete becomes the center of a debate that is suddenly much bigger than the original event. That is exactly what happened here. The clarified version is simple. Shedeur Sanders participated in Colorado's commencement ceremony. But according to USA Today and Colorado's clarification, he had not yet officially obtained his degree at that point. That is the truth as reported. And once you say it that plainly, the rest of the conversation becomes about interpretation. Was this harmless confusion? Was it sloppy framing? Was it social media oversimplification? Or was it a public relations style moment that ended up creating a cleaner image than the facts supported? That is where the comments are going to go to war. Because the answer depends on what people already believe about Shedeur Sanders, about Colorado, and about the way modern sports media works. If you already think he gets unfair treatment, you will probably look at this and say, people are reaching for controversy where none exists. If you already think the coverage around him is too polished, you will probably say, this is exactly why people no longer trust headline-level narratives. And both sides are going to think the facts support them. That is why this content hits, because you is not just a fact check. It is a test of how the audience processes image versus detail. And the details here lack. Walking in a ceremony is not the same thing as officially graduating. That is the whole point. Once that line was clarified, the original public understanding changed. And when the public understanding changes after the celebration has crossed through, people start asking harder questions. Not applying about the student, sometimes about the machine around the student, sometimes about the media, Sometimes about the school, and sometimes about why the internet keeps rewarding certainty before verification. That is the bigger verdict. This was not a major scandal, but it was absolutely a major example of how fast a story can harden into public truth before the details are fully understood. And because the name attached to it was Shedeur Sanders, it was always going to become emotional. That is just the reality of his content ecosystem now. So the real question is not whether participating in a commencement ceremony is allowed. It is. The real question is whether the public got a version of the story that was too polished, too simplified, or too ready-made for social media. That is why people are talking. That is why this story will not stay neutral. And that is why the comment section is going to split right down the middle. So let's settle it. Was this harmless confusion? Or did the public get a version of the story that was never fully true? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want daily NFL drama, Browns storylines, and the deeper narrative behind the headline, subscribe to Snap Stories and Reels. Because around Shedeur Sanders,
Even the clarification becomes the story.